Thank you for listening to this Podcast One Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One. Welcome to RJ Bell's Dream Preview. Weekly winners from his Wise Guy Roundtable. Broadcasting from the Pregame.com studios in Las Vegas. Here is RJ Bell.
That's right. NFL Week 3 edition of the Dream Preview.
Showtime! Woo!
All right, Faz, you got the two Hiltons.
And I got the New York Jets plus 22.5, RJ, a sky-high spread. I got to tell you, this spread surprises me that it got this high. And the fact I can get a 22.5-point dog, and I made the game 20. And it's a little bit complicated, but on a neutral side, I have these two teams, New England, Jets, 17 points apart. Add 3 for home field, and I get 20. But that's without having making any adjustment for the fourth quarter. Now, typically, when a team gets up by 15, and if you're with me, that 20 points, that's 5 points per quarter. So I'm forecasting New England should be up 15 after 3 quarters. The fourth quarter tends to be much more of a pick'em game than New England laying 5. So because of that, I would argue 20 was too high in this game to get 22.5 with the Jets against the New England team that has not one, not 2, but 3 offensive linemen compromised, 2 of them out. Wynn is out. Andrews, their center, is out, and Cannon is injured. I think the Jets are an outstanding investment opportunity. I like the Jets.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is probably my favorite pick. It's what I would have picked. I'm going to give something at the end of the show related to this game that I think is one of the better bets of the year, if not best bet of the year so far. But here's why I like the Jets so much. Belichick, and I tweeted this at RJ in Vegas on Twitter, which is going back 30 years, there's been 5 favorites, home or away, over 3 touchdowns. And New England were 3 of those games? 3. And now if you go above 20 or above, New England has 4. So there's another one that in those 4, New England and Belichick 0-4. Now, small sample, but significant. In fact, I bet the ATS margin are gigantic. I think that Baltimore is the 4th game. Remember, that was a 3-pointer on Monday night when the line was 20, if I recall. And, you know, I know one of them was 3 against Philadelphia. So, yeah, let's look up that ATS margin. Maybe go 20 or above and just Pats since 2000. Brad's pretty good at this. He doesn't hunt and peck. So, one, Belichick doesn't tend to run it up when it's like so extreme. Now, you might say, well, RJ, what happened last week? I think it was a perfect storm. 1, Miami had won 5 of 6 at home. Belichick likes to exercise, though. It's exercise. I never say that word. Get rid of those demons in a religious sense. Okay. The Exorcist is a good movie. Now, I think there's a second reason. Belichick hates nothing more than distraction. And I would say that the Antonio Brown stuff was potentially the biggest distraction since Deflategate for the Pats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you make a statement that this doesn't affect us? Outside world, you can try what you want, is you dominate that week. You run it up. You have an impressive score. So I think it was a perfect storm for them to run it up like they did. Now, did you feel like in the second half they were purposely trying to gain margin, or they just played the game?
Patriots just played the game. They didn't just run the ball. They did throw it some. But bottom line is, in the fourth quarter, there were 2 pick sixes for the Patriots. So that's how they got their 2 late touchdowns. And it was more about the Dolphins quitting. I hate to say quitting, but the receivers that dropped those passes for the Dolphins, RJ, they didn't even chase after the Patriot defender. They just put their hand over their helmet and, hung their head. That was a team with serious motivational issues.
Yeah, and we'll be getting to this other 20-plus point, or in this case, over 21. So, ATS margin.
0-5 ATS. There's actually 2 games. 120, the Ravens game, and also a 20.5-point spread against the Colts. Minus 13.
Against the Colts? Oh, that year before.
Minus 13 points per game, ATS.
Whoa.
That's not good.
Well, it's good if you're betting against them. Now, here's the thing. I think when the Pats won so handily, at least on the score, they did, but scoreboard might have been a little worse. I think it decreases the chance of a blowout here massively because Belichick doesn't want a blowout. Because if you win 2 games in a row by 30, what's going to happen? Your team might get a little bit full of themselves. The media starts talking about best team since the undefeated team. You start seeing the undefeated props get discussed more than they are now. You think Belichick wants any of that, Steve?
No.
Okay. So to me, if the Pats had only won by 10 against Miami, I wouldn't play this game. I think that in a vacuum, it's a good pick. I think it becomes a really good pick because the Pats just won so handily as a big favorite the week before.
Makes a lot of sense. And we're going against a rule. We don't ever like to play against the Patriots, right? But you went ahead and broke this out by month. And if there's 1 month that we can bet against the Patriots, it's September, where they only cover, I think, 53%, right?
Yeah,
versus
they're 2-0 now, right? So,
they're due for a loss in September.
You're joking, right?
Yeah.
Now, thankfully. Now, here's what I would say is I think that these humongous lines are almost like a college handicap, meaning it's about their desire to get – I mean, we always talk about desire to get margin when the line's 8.5, right? At 20 over, at over 21, it really is about margin. Wouldn't you say, Fez?
Yep.
Yes.
So it's very rare in the NFL to have a spread. I mean, like we said, there's been 5 in 30 years. Now, let's say 17, 18, 19, similar. Okay, how many of those are there? I did the work of 18 and over, 18 points and over last week. There was only 27 of them in 30 years. It's once a year kind of stuff, right? Now, the favorites cover in those, but not – it's kind of funny. 18 and over they cover, but not over 21. That's a little corridor in there, right? So – to me, I feel like Belichick has zero desire, and this is he doesn't, listen, my theory is he probably likes Adam Gase being the coach of the Jets, right? I'm not so sure he wants to embarrass the Jets. I mean, that's a little conspiracy theory, but he certainly has no animus towards the Jets at this point, other than a division rival. But you don't want to blow out the team when their third-string quarterback's in, because then they get, that motivates them for the next game.
It makes a lot of sense. And let's talk about the motivation for New England in weeks 1 and 2. So they had the revenge game against Pittsburgh. They annihilated Pittsburgh. Well, they had a lot of reasons to want ahead and make a statement off of the loss last year against Pittsburgh and, frankly, one of their challengers at the time in the AFC. And then, of course, going to South Beach where they lost so many games and the Miami Miracle. You nailed it, RJ. Lots of incentive to put that behind you. Where is the incentive to bury the Jets here with their third-string quarterback? I don't see it.
Yeah, so to me, and I might as well say it now because we've done an extended handicap here, I think one of the best bets of the year is the Jets and under. Because what's going to happen is, in my opinion, Belichick, I would have zero interest in betting the Jets team total over. Right? Would you?
Zero. Because I'm not confident they're going to score very much.
So, but if we're taking the Jets, that means it's almost, what? Is it over 60%? Meaning, if the Jets cover, what are the odds of the under?
63%.
Well, then that's much higher than I thought. I thought you were going to go 55.8. So to me, that means this is that's probably the most correlated piece, second leg of a parlay I've ever seen.
Absolutely. And this one's going to be difficult to get in, RJ.
How many NFL places don't let you get it in? I mean, most books don't even, or the square shops don't even realize you can have this kind of correlation in the NFL.
The multiplier, because you have such a big spread with a lower total.
No, I understand that's how they do college. I mean, when do they keep them off?
I am going to run around town tonight and attempt to do this in multiple books.
Okay, so listen, I like this. So, and I've already got some stuff. I won't get into exactly how, but if you can put me down for 2 dimes What kind of bets can you? I mean, it's all we're going off the board, right?
I'm going to step ladder. I'm going to go up and try different dollar amounts and see what they take, and we'll see what we can get in. I might have to play 400, few teamers at a bunch of different places.
Let's spread it around.
Exactly.
There's probably a gecko. Remember, he was going. He goes 50,000 shares. Blah blah blah. He goes spread it around. Open a new account. Don't F it up.
Keep it quiet. Use the offshores. Don't screw it up.
All right, we got the Jets. Brad, we're going to let you go second.
All right.
Now, by the way, guys, Super Contest. I told you we weren't going to do as well. Oh, wait, 60% so far. And Fez, you've been stinking it up, huh?
1-1, terrible.
How many losers did I save us from your card? How's your season going? With the all week access type, and that's the beauty of having the packages, guys. You get the early stuff, you get the late stuff, you get the stuff in between. How you doing?
Yeah, right around 60%.
Right around 60. What are the odds? If I said, Brad, I'll take under 60 and you take over 60, you want to do it?
No. I was going to set some odds.
What odds would you take? 4-1?
Ooh, 4-1. I wouldn't take. I was going to say 2 or 3-1.
So you would take 4-1?
Yeah, I'll take 4-1.
All right, I'll bet you $10 to win 4.
Okay.
What is it, Fez?
I don't know the exact.
Oh, you know the exact. You know the exact.
No, I do not.
You want to bet me?
Yeah, I'll bet you I don't know it. I'm not going to bet the 60%.
Betting you don't know something you should know is often a good.
The fact,
bet.
if it was over 60%, it'd be so much more likely that I would know the exact to the decimal point.
You think, Brad? You're going to just smack your head here. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up. The Jets, to me, they're kind of a non-issue here. They're just a generic bad NFL team with a third-string quarterback, but points.
Yeah, so the point on the Jets is I liked what I saw from the Jets against Cleveland in terms of effort. When you're betting plus 22, you're betting effort of the dog as well as motivation for the favorite. And what did I see from the Jets after they got buried by Cleveland? I saw a team playing hard, running hard. I saw Bell breaking tackles, hurdling people. And bottom line is the Jets probably should have gotten a touchdown against Cleveland in the fourth quarter. They turned the ball over. They were unlucky, making that blowout loss to Cleveland look a little worse than it really was.
Well, Colin was making a big point.
If they pick up that first down, see right there in the third quarter, then they can make a field goal then, even though it might be a long one. And then it's 16-6. And guess what? Then it's a game. Oh, wow, that was bad.
But even the defense at the very end, when Baker was trying to run it up and throw to Odell Beckham, the Jets defense showed heart and got after him and sacked his ass.
Who was talking about Beckham getting fed the ball?
You were. 6 catches over.
Yes.
And 160 yards, Brad?
Yep.
That's what we're going to see with Kitchens is we're going to see he's trying to make the players happy because it's a rare NFL coach. This is like the NBA in a way. The players are bigger than the coach.
Yep.
If Mayfield and OBJ once Kitchens gone, you think he's staying?
No.
I don't think so. I think with the Jets, and I listen to WFAN now and again, at least once a week, usually YouTube, a clip. They hate Gase. Oofa, they hate him. So, to me, if they get beat by 30, he's going to catch a firestorm back in NYC. So, I think the motivation there is to stop all the jibber-jabber about how bad they are, too. Speaking of Gase, I got a real short sound clip. A couple weeks ago, Colin Cowherd and I were on his podcast and discussing Gase, and I have a very different take than Colin. Let's listen real quick.
Adam Gase had a winning record in Miami when Ryan Tannehill was healthy, beat Belichick twice. I think Gase is one of those guys. Belichick and Pete Carroll got fired. Gase is a good coach who just could not overcome quarterback injuries.
One, when Belichick got fired by the Browns, it was like, 5 years of going back and rethinking what he did under Parcells again in this case. To me, it's rare to see a guy fired for cause, for underperformance, and then hired the same year. And I really believe, guys, that this idea that Gase maybe is underrated, maybe. But how often can you even recollect the time that a coach gets fired for cause, underperformance, and he doesn't miss a game. Literally the next NFL game, he's coaching. How often does that happen?
Not very often.
I mean, can we recall one instance?
Trying to think if John Fox did after Carolina fired him.
Maybe.
And usually only after a long tenure
Yeah.
where it's not a matter of him being competent, but more that it just isn't a good fit anymore.
Yeah, or not even that. Yeah, the good fit being they need to change the scenery or whatever. Yeah, so I agree with you there. That's a good point. And that Fox is a good pull. We'll see. We'll pull it up in a second. But to me, what has Gase done? Now, at this point, there's been 50 games that Gase has coached in the NFL. 25 of them, his starting quarterback was out. Now, there's two ways to look at it. One is, oh, wow, how good would he be if Tannehill had played, et cetera. And the other way to look at it is there's something about his offense that exposes the quarterback. You know, some of these modern principled offenses don't protect the quarterback enough. That's why a lot of the college game stuff hasn't gone to the NFL, because it just takes one hit with a 320-pound guy that runs 4.6 versus in college, you don't have those guys. The quarterbacks are faster.
I think he's just been unlucky, though, because Gase's whole offense...
Do you really know?
Yeah, because Gase's whole offense is dink and dunk and get rid of the ball quick and short passes. It's not trying to throw the ball down the field and having the quarterback require a whole lot of time in the pocket.
Well, I mean, listen, I am not an X's and O's guy, and I don't think you are either. Are you, Fez?
I'm not, but I've certainly read that about Gase and his offensive schemes.
And it's just this coincidence that they're hurt all the time. I mean, is there one thing he's doing with the tight end where he gets him out in pass coverage? I mean, I don't know, right? I just know 25 out of 50 games, you can't be sure it's not him, right? So I think there's something to say there. I'm not a big fan of Gase. New York media is not a big fan of Gase. Okay, next game, it's going to be Brad Powers' best bet, baby. Green buttons ready. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Houston here, plus the 3 against the Chargers on the road here for the Texans. And whole handicap for me, I'm piggybacking off, no surprise here, Fez, piggybacking off of what you were describing the Chargers last week. All the injuries on both sides of the ball for the Chargers. Now, there wasn't any cluster injuries or whatsoever when it came to the Chargers last week. There are some this week. I'm even going to go a step further. Of all the injuries that the Chargers had last week, Hunter Henry, tackle's been out here for a while for them, secondary issues. I would say the one that creeped up most on them, replacement kicker, wasn't so good. Misses 2 field goals for the Chargers, and now we got a Houston team coming off a lackadaisical effort against the Jags last week. And I'll say this, in a close game, the spread said it's going to be close. Houston seems like every single week, even going back to last year, is playing in close games. They've had some success. They've had some losses. But if there's one guy I don't want to be making decisions in a close game, and we mentioned this last year, it's Anthony Lynn, the LA Chargers coach. So I expect Houston to go in there, take care of business against a banged-up Chargers team. I like, and I bet Houston plus the 3.
Yeah, selective memory on some Anthony Lynn games. Remember that game in London when they were up 7? I think it was against the Titans. They won by 1, and he almost gave it away, and certainly did give away the game at home against the Broncos with some questionable late-game play calling and the like. And you nailed it in terms of you've got all these injuries, and we said, boy, this is going to be a huge distraction for the coaching staff trying to adjust for all these different injuries. But the good news is, hey, they're all in different places, on the field, so they don't have to worry about the cluster injuries. Well, now, obviously, Derwin James, arguably their best defender, out for the year. No problem. We got a deep secondary.
Yep.
We'll be fine. And now we got 3 other guys hurt in the secondary, including their Pro Bowler, Phillips, at safety. Now it's a huge problem. And I got to wonder that you got with a Charger team that had that tough game against Detroit that could have gone either way. And I will make the case also. Everyone's like, well, Austin Eckler, he's every bit as good as Melvin Gordon. And you know what? The production numbers absolutely have shown that. But Austin Eckler tends to fumble. And he went ahead and fumbled on the goal line, costing the Chargers a touchdown this past week. And that certainly is an issue versus Melvin Gordon. Their defense is not going to be good with all of these injuries. And home field advantage is not 3 for the Chargers in L.A. We've got to go ahead and take the points in this game. I agree.
Yeah, and one more thing I'm going to add on, and this is actually a little bit of a concern I have, and not necessarily for this game for Houston, but moving forward, that Houston Texans offensive line, I mean, this is incredible. I don't think I've ever read this before. Last week, so Watson was sacked 6 times in the opener. Last week got sacked 4 times. Going back to last season, Deshaun Watson has been sacked at least 4 times in every game for 8 straight games. I'm not as concerned about this week, but the compounding interest of that moving forward game after game, I don't think that's a good look for Houston come October, come November, Fez.
So you're telling me you're betting against the Chargers here. You're not betting on Houston and their new addition, Larry Tunsil, who already gave up 2 sacks in his first game.
Good call, Fez. Houston, best bet. My first one for this 2019 NFL season, Houston, +3.
All right, third best bet for me. Let's keep this one simple because it's a simple handicap, but I really like this game. Well, not quite, but I think they might cover the 6.5.
They're going to the counter in the window.
We're going to the counter.
Yep.
Here's the rationale. It's simple. One of my basic precepts, is that the teams tell you what they really think often with their actions, and that they know more than us about their team. And they probably know more, or in fact, they almost certainly know more football than us. They're professionals at football, not betting football. What did the Steelers teach us this week? They don't think their first-round pick is going to be all that valuable. If I would have said the day Big Ben was announced out for the season, Fez, on Monday, over under Steelers wins.
4.5.
4.5 gets you what? The 4th pick in the draft? 5th pick in the draft?
Sure.
They just traded the 5th pick, 4th pick in the draft for a cornerback that isn't one of the. I mean, from what I'm not judging cornerbacks, but from what I gather, he's not one of the 6 or 8 best in football.
Oh, nowhere close.
Where would you think he is?
More like 30.
So you're saying this guy's almost a number 2 corner?
Yes.
Then why would the Steelers give up a number 1 pick for him? I mean, that just makes no sense. Even if the Steelers go 8-8, they wouldn't give up the 15th or 16th pick. They must think he's better than that.
Right.
Is your numbers coming from Pro Football Focus?
You know, I don't have it in front of me.
But you
I
must
know I know he wasn't that high.
Okay.
I don't have the exact number.
You might want to stay on mic if you're going to talk. So, but no, it doesn't matter if it's 28 or 35. It's the same concept, right? He's not elite.
Pro Football Focus has him as the 78th best guy, which seems crazy.
But again, I think what we're seeing with Pro Football Focus.
That was everyone in the secondary.
Yeah, that was all secondary players yes.
Still, to be the third man in a second. There's only 4 people in the secondary, right? I mean, I guess
2 safeties, 2 cornerbacks.
Is that right, Fez? I appreciate that. You know, you learn something. Should I give him in dreams?
Highs and lows.
But can we dispute this? That the Steelers have to have real optimism?
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can. And also the fact that the Steelers, I think they thought highly of their third-string quarterback, Dobbs, right?
How do you know?
Well, he played well in preseason.
So you're saying you thought highly?
I thought highly of Dobbs. Mm-hmm. And the Steelers were willing to trade him, which means they probably have a lot of confidence in Rudolph.
There's a difference between trade. I mean, think about the amount of confidence you have to say amongst 2 players that, in theory, being backups and young, that will never be even a top half of the league starter. What's the odds that any one of them, I'm not saying both combined, but any one of them being, before any new information this week, being a top 16 NFL starter at quarterback? I mean, at least 5-1 against, right? 7-1 against.
Going 15%, right?
Yeah. So to me, that decision was a modest decision.
Mm-hmm.
It might have just been youth, because in a weird way, if they were even, and Randall or Rudolph is what, 2 years younger?
Yeah, 2 years in.
Just the contract is going to make you do that, right? I think this decision is 20 times bigger. They are effectively saying we are trading a pick. Right? If there's any time the Steelers, I've never seen them trade a number 1 pick. I've been following the draft closely since Big Ben got drafted. they've never traded a number one pick. In fact, they've only traded up like 3 times this century. And, this year was one. This prior year was one.
Devin Bush. Yeah.
They traded up for Santonio Holmes, and they traded up one other time. I can't remember. I don't think it was Troy, but there was one other time. That's it.
So the brain trust with the Steelers, you're essentially saying, you know what? This is only going to be like a number 16 pick. It's fine. We expect we're going to win about half our games.
And it says something else. And it kind of is correlated. It's saying we don't need to draft Big Ben's replacement. We got him.
That's strong.
That's a great point.
Because if otherwise, it's kind of one and the same. If you think Randolph is really good, you got
Rudolph.
Big Ben's I keep saying Randolph. Big Ben's replacement. So to say that one more time is like the red-nosed reindeer.
Yep.
Well, that's easy enough.
Yes.
I wish I had that sound drop. That's a great song.
Yeah.
And the other kids, how's that go? Even if it say it blows.
Yeah.
And all of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. Finish it, Fez.
They never let poor Rudolph playing any reindeer games.
Oh, my God. That takes worth $1,000.
That is.
Mark it. And remember, Steve, now that we're recording the tip.
That is amazing.
That was great.
One of our best moments in podcast.
Do we have the video rolling just out wide? I think they're saying we're confident this year is effectively saying we're confident we got Big Ben's replacement. Because if as a rookie, he's going to lead a demoralized team, a team that's owned, or as a first-time starter, going to lead a demoralized team that's used to winning. Right? That's tough on teams that aren't used to. Baltimore's had some bad year. As good as Harbaugh is, when you're used to winning, once you're eliminated from that playoffs, what do? Teams don't tend to play hard at that point. Right? Just like when Alabama gets in, a non-championship game.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great example, as opposed to the team that's like, hey, we're excited to go to this horrible bowl.
They lost to Utah in a bowl game, lost to Oklahoma as a 2-touchdown favorite in a bowl game.
And I think the Steelers could do that, too, in certain spots. And the Steelers are adding the whole thing up and saying, we will trade our number one pick. Your over and under would have been what? Like the 4.5, pick number 4.5?
Yeah, because they're going to win 4.5 games. So if anything, even higher than 4.5, maybe 3. How many teams are going to lose, more than 12 games?
And to trade that pick when they could have taken, there's supposed to be 5 or so quarterbacks in this draft, right? First round?
Yeah, Tua, Justin Herbert. It's going to be a pretty good class, better than last year's class.
And they must really like this dude, all right? And the market's moved, right? But, meaning it opened at 7. 7 was widely available.
Yeah,
right?
widely available. Painted 7. San Francisco favored. Now line 6.5 across the board. All the 7s are gone.
I've got one more thought on this, but I want to go around the horn here on any other thoughts on the game and specifically what I just talked about, any other thoughts. Brad, let's start with you.
I just like the fact that you have, we talk about historical baselines a lot, and you have one team in the Pittsburgh Steelers that's sitting at 0-2 for the first time in 6 years. And then you have another team, the San Francisco 49ers, sitting at 2-0 for the first time in 7 years. I'm never going to blindly play on that, but I got to think that's positive, playing on the 0-2 team in that situation when they're typically not in it.
Fast.
And I think the San Francisco 49ers are in a tricky bad spot this week. I talked about how I liked the fact that they went to Youngstown, Ohio. I thought that would be positive, bonding together. So they've been away from home for 9 days, and they've just kicked 2 opponents' butts on the scoreboard. So they're coming back home to San Francisco at 2-0. I could just see the coaching staff saying, great job all around, game balls for all of you. Go ahead and take the day off, and we're going to hit it hard tomorrow. And it just not having quite the sense of urgency than other situations because they've been away for 9 days.
You know what's funny with Fez? He's in his hypotheticals, there's always days off. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
There's always he can close his eyes and have a spray, maybe pay his boy Johnny to spray him with a bottle and act like he's in Waikiki.
Yep.
Now, Fez,
or the rest of the island.
Lifestyle question: Waikiki or the rest of the island?
Waikiki.
Why?
Dinner at Wolfgang's and just walk along the main drag there. no better place to be.
How much more affluent is it than the rest of the island?
Got to be by 200%.
And that's where you like being.
Yep.
No no sense though that you should be amongst the people.
Yeah.
No, I want to be a Waikiki.
I am Elmer J. Fudd, millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht.
Half of the people love him, half the people hate him, but the haters still follow him.
Yep.
That's what we know. Steve Fezzik. Last thing on this game. Admittingly, I've been a Mike Tomlin. I've been ambivalent at best.
At best.
True. Check this out. Now, we're going to give his whole career, but first let's split it out. From 2007, his first year, Tomlin, to 2012, his seventh, when entering the game with a losing record. So if they're 0-1, losing record, 1-2, 7-8. All right. Tomlin was 7-0 straight up. It's 100%. Literally, he didn't lose his first game with a losing record till his seventh season.
Wow.
That is a wow. Now, during that time, the 07 to 12, though, the rest of the league was 40% when entering the game with a losing record. That's straight up. Now, Tomlin, for his whole career, 27 times entered the game with a losing record, won over 70%. The rest of the league during that span had 80 games on average, each team entering the game with a losing record. So about 3 times as many as the Steelers. And they only hit 41%. 70% versus 41. Tomlin's raw crap that I think it sometimes works when the Steelers are losing. This is the most difficult game. This is the low point of the Steelers during the Tomlin era. Right? Is there any debate?
Can't be.
Having Big Ben.
Yep.
Right? So if these numbers are true, and this is what Tomlin lives for, because the raw works. So I think Steelers are motivated. I think they told us something about Rudolph, and I feel confident that you're going to get a good effort. And there was a chance before they traded this pick that I thought they might give up on the season, get the second pick, and who knows, pick the next Big Ben, and we got another, Andrew Luck style. This could have been like an Andrew Luck situation.
And turn it around, if Pittsburgh had traded one of their corners for a draft pick, you'd feel totally different about this game, right?
Good point. All right, so best bet, Fez, let's go over it.
Best bet on the New York Jets plus 22.5.
Best bet, Houston plus 3.
Best bet, me, Steelers with Rudolph plus 6.5. All right, Brad, congrats. Now listen, you were behind the curtain for one game.
Yeah.
Let's not go crazy. All right, we're going to aggressively handicap the rest of this card. Coming up, we're going to go aggressively with vigor through the rest of the games. Eagles, Lions. Right now, Eagles 6.5. Fez, you lean Lions.
I do lean Lions, and it's all about the injuries to Philadelphia. Now, on the injury report, a lot of these injuries are being shown. Jeffrey doubtful. Deshaun Jackson, another wide receiver, out. What's not showing up is how banged up the Eagles got. If you watched their game against Atlanta, you saw Wentz get a shot to the ribs. He was out for a series. He's back. Apparently, he's fine. He didn't look 100% to me after that hit. Same with his tight end, Ertz. Came back into the game after being injured, was out for a while against Atlanta. The backup tight end, Goddard, is injured. So the Eagles' offensive skill-making players, including Corey Clement, all are banged up or out for this game, seemingly. I think it's too much to overcome. And frankly, RJ, I did not like what I saw from the Eagles' secondary. We saw Matt Ryan miss 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 wide-open bombs that all would have been touchdowns. So I think that the Eagles' secondary is very suspect. I'm very worried about the Eagles right now. I'm going to go ahead and lean to Detroit.
So Mike Lombardi, friend of the show, made a good point this week on his pod, which was, is it Schwartz that's the
Jeff Schwartz? Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
The basis of his defense is pressure from the front. And
Jim Schwartz.
okay. And he Schwartz, you got to, in the salary cap era, you can't have everything be great. You can get lucky with draft choices. For the most part, where are you spending your money? And we had a interview with Sonny Dykes that we're going to have the whole thing. We're playing it on FSR this week or next week. I'll see. But next college football pod, we are going to have the whole thing at the end. He made an interesting point. Alabama and Clemson, there's only a handful of these 6'6", 330-pound left tackles. The SMUs are never getting that guy. They might get a guy who's 6'6", but it's like, he's like can hardly walk.
Yeah.
But somehow if they can convert him,
yeah.
he becomes athletic. There you go. In the NFL, the D linemen, they're physical specimen. It's hard to tell what's a good cornerback, right? I mean, if you think about the hit rate on certain positions in the draft, the hit rate on D linemen is really high. Because it's such a the performance is so tied to the physical skills. Where in the secondary, there's guys that are 4'3" that bomb all the time.
Yeah. Technique is so much more important than raw talent.
And instincts, you can make the case. And technique. So the Eagles, I think, rightfully spent a lot of money on their D-line. And they lost the guy, their biggest signing of the offseason. And right now, with Malik Jackson on the IR, I mean, if you go read, and I just happen to, I don't always get a chance to, the Philadelphia papers and columnists around him going on the IR, it was the biggest story because this was their big signing. And they do have some depth there, and it's a situation, I don't think the Eagles' D-line's below average. I just think they've gone from, potentially world-class coming into the season, and they haven't been playing that way, which exposes the secondary. So I think Philly maybe can put up points, but I think that defense is the problem.
Yeah, and bottom line against Atlanta, they had to go ahead and dial up all-out blitzes because the D-line was not getting the pressure on Atlanta.
Yeah, and you mentioned Matt Ryan getting 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. How about giving up 380 yards and 3 touchdowns to Case Keenum in Week 1? 700 yards and 6 touchdowns in just 2 weeks, which already was their weakness on last year's team, the secondary.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's hard to make a weakness a strength. The best you can do is make a weakness average most of the time.
Yeah, they're certainly not average.
So let me ask you this, Fez. If I was doing a handicap on this and I wanted to make the case for the Lions, I would say you've got a team in which Carson Wentz is the crown jewel of the team, but the reality is Nick Foles led him to a Super Bowl. At least a couple years ago, this team was as talented as any roster in the NFL. Fez, you went on Colin Cowherd that year and predicted the Eagles to make the Super Bowl. Their over-under wins were what, 8.5 or maybe 8.5?
Yeah, 8.5.
That's a hell of a prediction.
Yep.
So the depth of the Eagles, the talent across the board is strong. But now you got the D lineman out. D line's not playing great. You got the weakness of the secondary. How do you make up for it? Offense. Except Wentz banged up, maybe not. Let's say that's possible. But not the skill makers, but the playmakers all banged up. How isn't this one of your biggest bets of the year?
Because I don't like what I saw from the Detroit Lions. They got that banged-up Chargers squad.
Well, hold on a second. This will drive me back. If I ever have a heart attack as I'm going down, I'm going to think about this kind of conversation. What was the line in that game?
Pick 'em. Close pick 'em.
We're talking about the Chargers and the Lions.
Yep.
And who won?
Lions won by 3.
All right. So they exceeded expectations.
On the scoreboard, they did.
Okay, so how isn't the scoreboard what matters?
Because I watched the whole game, and I don't want to pull a Fezzik here, but the Chargers absolutely imploded. They had 2 touchdowns called back for penalties. They had a running back.
Isn't that what the Chargers do?
Yep, pretty much.
Missed 2 field goals.
And that was built into the line,
Austin Eckler fumbled.
Are you going to ignore that point? Meaning the line with the Chargers assumed the Chargers were going to make their typical errors, right?
Well, they made more than their typical errors.
Really?
They exceeded expectations and errors. They really gave the game away.
So, worst case, let's give the Lions -7, giving the Chargers 7. So the Chargers win and cover, but by a smidge. That's not liking what you saw. I mean, that's not liking what you saw by a smidge, but that's a half point, right? What'd you do, downgrade them a half point?
I actually kept them because they won the game. I kept them where they're at. I have the
so
Lions
then I'm confused. You're saying that based on the performance you saw last week, you didn't downgrade them. They lied.
This
is objectively just a yes.
Yes.
I don't care what you were considering. What does that have to do with anything? You made a decision. It was no downgrade.
Correct.
Let's say if you could have downgraded a quarter, which isn't intuitive, so we don't do it, you would have done it.
Yes.
Now, Brad does the 100th, but
yes.
but we, so a quarter point adjustment. How much do you think the handicap of the weakness of the Eagles is still there? The D-backs. The D-line, which is supposed to compensate for that, probably isn't as good as we think. Wentz is banged up potentially, and otherwise the playmakers have cluster injuries. How much is that worth?
It's probably worth 3 points.
So 3 minus a quarter is 2.75. Why isn't it this bad?
So I had the Eagles power rating at 5 going into the week. So if I lower the Eagles by 3 points, that's a massive adjustment for all these injuries. I would have the Eagles 2 points better than average team. That would make the spread in this game 5 on a neutral, and the game's in Philly.
So what you're saying is, right now with the adjustments you made, and remember, power ratings account for the team that's planning to be on or expect to be on the field this week, so injuries are accounted for. What with the numbers you put out, what would the line be in this game?
Eagles -8.
Okay, so what you're saying is this is why power ratings are so important. Power ratings tell you impressions like a lot of injuries, impressions like cluster, blah, 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 blah. D-line's not as good. Those are things that tell you a direction. The power ratings tell you once you calculate that direction, is there value? What you're saying is it's all accounted for in the line.
But there's a lot of uncertainty in my Eagles power rating. I'm confident in my Detroit power rating.
You would have to be off, though, by 2 points just to get the parity, right?
Right, but I could well be with all these injuries.
We know, but what I'm saying is that's not a great bet.
Right.
Like, that's what you got to understand. I'm trying to drill down to a specific question. If all we ever do is talk from the widest perspective, we're never going to get anywhere. I was asking you why this wasn't a pick. You explained it. Now you're trying to somehow backtrack. I don't get it. You explained it. Did you get it?
Yep.
That's a success. Next game, Ravens, Chiefs. Chiefs, 6.5. I bet the public actually thinks this one might be high. Well, Mahomes got so much love. Fez, you actually like the total.
Yeah, I like the total under here, and it's dropped from 55 to 53, and here's why. What's the Chiefs' weakness on defense? They can't stop the run. Baltimore should certainly be able to run the ball. So even if they have success, I expect that there's going to be some long drives for Baltimore, clock consuming, and with a total of 55, frankly, RJ, I need both teams. That's a sky-high total.
What's the current total?
53. So with a total of 53, I expect that I need both teams to be having shorter drives, scoring quickly. Now, obviously, Kansas City can do that on anyone, but I think Baltimore controlling the clock, 53 is just too high.
Now, if you just look at the scores and add up Baltimore, divide by 2, it feels like Baltimore's, or at least that simple math says Baltimore's one of the higher score teams in the league.
Well, it's 69 points against Miami, and then only 40 last week. 23-17.
No, I'm saying higher scoring teams.
Oh, yes, because of the Miami destruction, yes.
All right. So what you're saying is you're discounting that. Why?
Because Miami's historically bad, and I feel that...
you saw some give up on the field.
Big time, yes.
Okay, I agree with that.
This is RJ Bell's Dream Preview. Now back to RJ Bell's Dream Preview.
So now, my question is this. How much has the Ravens run? How much have they run this year?
Less than they've done in the past.
Okay, that's a good. I mean, if you could guess that 50-50, it's either less or more. How much have they run this year?
They threw 20 times in their opening game against Miami. I don't have the box score for last week.
So let's pour. I don't know how you can have a like on the total and not. I mean, the obvious question in this game is Baltimore hasn't been the team we've expected. I think I know. I have a theory of why. But does not seem to be a Brad, you know what you need to do for me, buddy? You need to step up and tell him when it doesn't make sense to you either. Because you're letting me just say it. He respects your opinion. Does that seem like the first question?
Yeah. What are they doing when it comes to we mentioned they're going to run now? Well, they haven't been running in the first two games. The mispricing.
And that's the thing. Why then if that's what his bet hinges on, what makes him think that? And the case could be made they ran more in Miami than you would expect because they did have such a big lead. Here's my concern. It feels like the Ravens are playing a different style ball than was expected. So, Fez, I'm sure you've got the numbers. What do the numbers tell us about the Ravens this year versus last year?
So the Ravens have run the ball 55% of the time and thrown it 45% of the time so far this year.
All right. So give us some context.
So the context of it is
like 55, 45. What does that mean?
Most of the NFL average is around 60% passing, 40% running.
All right, so 60 passing, and the Ravens
55.
Okay, so that seems about the same, right?
It's close, and especially if you would have asked
about 5%.
5%. But if you would have asked me before the year started, I would have said, I think the Ravens are going to be more running than passing. Yes.
So in one of the premises of your handicap is
that the Ravens are going to run the ball quite a bit, and
so it seems like it needs addressed.
Yes, because I believe that it's an obvious strategy early in the game, even though the Ravens are an underdog, that they're going to want to go ahead and exploit the Chiefs' bad rush defense. And I expect, and I'd be willing to bet, that the Ravens are going to run the ball close to 60% of the time, at least in the first half, provided where they won't have a deficit in the scoreboard.
It's not provided, it's assumed.
Assuming, yes.
So you'd go over under 59.5 or 59?
I'd go over 59. First half rushes versus passes, yes.
All right, and rush. So you're saying 59% rushes.
Yes.
And what's been their year-to-date? 55.
55.
And the league's year-to-date, leagues in average, or typically is?
Around 40 for rushing, 60 for passing.
So the league's 40.
Yes.
Ravens this season have been 55. You're saying the Ravens in the first half are going to be 59% runs?
Yes.
All right. Perfect.
Beautiful.
You feeling good about your bet?
I am.
Brad, you want to jump in?
I do, actually.
Great handicap. Anything left on that game?
Nope.
Next game, Bengals, Bills. Bills 2-0. Starting on the road 2-0. Brad, if you're able, can you look up I can do it better, I think, as you guys are chatting. Because they were 2 road games, right?
Yeah, both in New York.
Yeah, but 2 road games. Who you got, Fez?
I lean to the Bills. It's a little early, RJ, to just start looking at statistics for teams. But if I go back to our yards per play stat, Bills certainly looking good, plus 1.3 yards per play differential. Bengals minus 1.4, so the differential's 2.7. That is a massive difference between two teams. The Bengals got destroyed by the 49ers, not only on the scoreboard, but...
Yeah, but Fez, strength of schedule. I mean, the Bills just played the Jets and the Giants. And borderline Cincinnati just played 2 playoff teams.
I know, but a really good team, you should have a yards per play, like maybe a skewing of like 0.7, not 1.3 in each direction. So it's such an extreme difference. And I still think the Bills being 2-0 and being -1 in turnovers, typically when a team that's not supposed to be very good goes on the road 2 games and starts out 2-0, a lot of things break right for them. And I can make the case that the Bills have just handily outplayed both of their first 2 opponents.
I lean with Cincinnati here, but not with a lot of confidence because I think there's actually a chance that Cincinnati's like a bottom 3-4 team in the league. But what still in my mind?
You quoting me when we in prep? I mean, just to cover your butt. Jeez, go ahead.
But it's still in my mind, we only got 2 data sample sizes. Okay, a horrible one last week with Cincinnati, but I would argue a pretty good one in week 1 on the road as a touchdown plus underdog. And in Steve Fezzik's words, Cincinnati very capable and could have easily won that game on the road against Seattle. So
here's the key. Seattle looks good because of the Pittsburgh win, except Pittsburgh, like I said, at least entering that game, the mindset they were in, all the things, I was so down on them. I mean, we bet it.
Yep.
And I just really believe with Big Ben going out, that was you want to talk about a heartbreaker. So I'm not, as much as I thought I was on the right side, I mean, it's fair to say if Big Ben plays, who knows what happens, right?
Could be a coin flip.
Yep. Or could win cleanly. Yep. So I guess what I'm saying is, what has Seattle done impressive? They barely won against a Bengals team that we have no idea about, but we know there are other data points, one of the worst data points of the year. Mm-hmm. And now a Seattle team that goes into Pittsburgh and wins. So Cincinnati playing so well in Seattle looks good, except mitigating circumstances on that win. I haven't seen anything I'm impressed by Seattle. The only thing that looks decent about Cincinnati is how they played in Seattle.
Fair enough.
I think that's why I think they could be bad.
Yep.
Like bad. 30.
And remember, Cincinnati had their problems with the O-line. They had their number 1 draft pick got injured. They had another guy retire, and Cincinnati is averaging 1.8 yards per rush. They can't open up any holes, and the running back, Joe Mixon, did come back, but he did not look to be completely 100% as well.
I do have a stat that blew my mind, RJ, on this one. Reading through the Bills stuff, I do read 9 newspapers a day. But Josh Allen, I would say I was very low on Josh Allen. Here's a guy that struggled to complete passes in the Mountain West, and they took him in the top 10 of the NFL draft. I think he's definitely exceeded my expectations. He's now passed, this doesn't sound like much, for more than 200 yards in 7 straight games. Doesn't sound like anything. 200 yards, 7 straight games, everyone should do that. Except Buffalo Bills quarterbacks. No Buffalo Bill quarterback has done that since Jim Kelly in 1992, a quarter century. That's how pathetic the quarterback play has been for the Bills.
This is fascinating. In the last 30 years of the NFL, week 3, prior game away, and week 1 away, and you win both of them, there's only been 13 instances in 30 years.
Really?
Yeah. I guess they don't double. Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, so nothing to get there.
But there's what, 3? It qualifies for like 3 teams this week? You won both your...
Oh, that's fascinating. It does. Ravens and Steelers. Or I guess it's the flip side. Chiefs and 49ers.
Yep.
So
and Bills.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I was looking up the Bills.
Yep.
So, no, but you're right. Yeah, verifying the output. Yeah. So, since we got the right output this week, it's the query's right. Okay. Wow, what are the odds of that? Something happens 13 times in 30 years, and it happens 3 times this year. I guess we'll have something with that when we get to the patch. I had my case. I don't want to bet I can't bet the Bengals. Bills feel like they're a little overrated here, and it opened 4. What was the look ahead, Fez?
4.5.
Yeah, so this is up. At 4, I play the Bills. Big.
Yeah.
Who opened it at 4? I got to start taking the time to look at these look-aheads. All right, Colts, favored by 2 at home. They surprised me. I liked Tennessee last week. Falcons on the road, obviously +2. Fez, you like this one.
Yeah, I like Atlanta. I'm going to go to our turnover table differential. I like when teams have minus turnovers, I tend to think they're undervalued. Plus turnovers.
So we're talking about season long.
Yeah, season long, overvalued. So it's not a big number, but Atlanta's -3 in turnovers. And Indy's
2 games is pretty big. 1.5 a game.
And Indy's +2. So we got only a 5 turnover differential between these two. But you're right, it's only 2 games. So what's happening is that Atlanta's played better than their final scores indicate, largely because of the turnovers, and Indy's played worse. And I'm going to make the case for Atlanta. So Matt Ryan missed 3 touchdown passes.
If you don't mind, because I might forget this. The injuries that Philadelphia suffered, at what point of the game were the key ones? I didn't watch the whole game.
It was throughout the game on offense that guys were going in and out starting in the first half.
So clearly Atlanta benefited from the injuries during the game.
Yes. And I can make the case that although Atlanta won by 4, and it certainly could have gone either way in the final couple minutes, the reason that this game came down to the final few minutes is because Atlanta just missed wide open touchdown passes all game long. So it cost them 14 points on 2 touchdown bombs, and a third wide open receiver. Matt Ryan underthrew his receiver, and he threw an interception to Darby. So Atlanta could easily have actually won that game comfortably against Philadelphia, and thus I think Atlanta is undervalued.
So the other perspective is Matt Ryan is hit the wall. He's missing open receivers, and he's not a top 10 quarterback anymore.
He missed his receivers just by a smidge. He overthrew him by like half a yard.
I mean, you do realize that you don't draw. When Peyton Manning had his bad year, he was still like the 40, maybe the 35th best quarterback in the world.
Sure.
So you're not going to, start being like Charlie Sheen in Major League, right?
Well, Cam Newton has been doing that, but
we're getting off subject, don't you think? I mean, we think Cam's injured, right?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying I'm agreeing with this, but don't we have to? It just Feds. I think it's so like you get your narrative. Isn't there another side? What do we know about Matt Ryan that tells us that he hasn't dropped off?
It's possible.
I know it's possible. I'm saying, have you?
We don't know.
I know we don't know. I'm saying, how are you assessing that? You're saying the odds. I mean, I think it's fair to say the odds are. I guess how did he look? How crisp did he? You watched that whole game, right?
I did.
How crisp did he look on his completion?
He looked crisp. He looked good. He just missed some receivers.
That's the answer.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to, though. Like, we don't. I think we're ready to take it to the next level, guys, because you guys are getting better. Both, media presentation, but you're getting your efficiencies with your time, with your handicapping. I think the things that we didn't address, like we've always said, we're going to be honest. We're not going to say, yeah, great pick, Brad, if we disagree. The green button takes care of that. I think the stuff where there might be a 10% chance something's the case, we quickly explain why we don't think it is. Otherwise, it just feels like something on ESPN that's like 30 seconds. When you need it to be 2 minutes, but it's 30 seconds because it's TV. We don't have that restriction. Even on the radio, we don't have that restriction. I like the handicap.
So this spread says, there's a good chance that it's going to be a close game. And I have legitimate worries about a guy I think has hit the wall, the kicker for Indianapolis, 46-year-old Adam Vinatieri, who's already missed 5 kicks in 2 games, including 3 extra points. That could play a key role in this one. I lean Atlanta.
Great point. Lombardi said on the pod he did on Sunday, so right after the games, that he would make, I don't think he used the phrase major bet. He goes, I don't see how Vinatieri doesn't retire.
Yep.
Meaning he's the greatest of all time, perhaps, most people believe, and he's really struggling. And it doesn't feel like it's nerves or he's not, he's missing big.
Yep.
Proposition bet, it just occurred to me. I'm sorry I didn't think of it before.
No, this is great.
Atlanta longest field goal is so clear because
now, how many books have that?
Longest field goal is one that it would be like at a third of the books. That's something that a lot of books put up.
Want to give me a dime on that, baby?
I'll get you
like
down.
The number?
I'll get you down.
But let me know if you like the number.
Yes.
Meaning, if you're betting it, get me down for a dime. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
Because I won't get a mansion in your yacht, but I'll be on the way.
I like it.
And, of course, all the derivatives of if I could get the Indy kicker, Vinatieri, longest field goal under it, but that's much more rare.
Yeah, and to me, diversify as much as you can, but I want 1,000 of exposure.
Got it.
All right, good stuff, guys. Great stuff, Feds. All right. Yeah, to me, that's why having a leisurely discussion, it's not like on the radio we're trying to get through this. Let's think about it a little bit, talk about it. Raiders, Vikings. I might be pressing the green button on this one. I'm confused, Fez. You got a teaser here, but you were contemplating the Vikings as your best bet. Wouldn't this be a like?
Yeah, I like the Vikings.
So even if you have a teaser, you still want to have the like on it.
Yes.
You like the Vikings?
I do. And my bottom line is my power ratings on this game with home field. This is my biggest disparity. I have Minnesota an 11.5-point favorite based upon my power ratings. I thought Minnesota had every chance to beat Green Bay last week. They didn't, so I didn't change their power rating.
Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. So really what you're effectively saying is they lost the game. They didn't cover. We had them, so we lost. And you say we didn't change the power rating, which means you didn't increase it. Somehow they were going to lose the game, lose the cover, and the thought was either stay put or upgrade?
This is the old Fezzik they should have covered.
So you didn't downgrade them?
I did not. I kept them where they were at. But even if I had downgraded
you know what's fascinating? Compare the Dallas Cowboys in Week 1 to the Vikings against Green Bay. Now, how much difference do you think in performance that was to you, Brad?
Over a point.
Significant.
Significant.
So, Fez, on Dallas, you did what? Half-point upgrade?
Week 1, yes.
Yeah. No, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
And Minnesota's no move. So you thought the difference in Dallas against the Giants and Minnesota against Green Bay is a half point.
Yeah, I made a bad adjustment on Dallas.
Yeah, maybe a bad adjustment on both. Continue.
Here's what I know about Mike Zimmer. You're negative EV betting against him. He's the most profitable coach, even beyond Belichick, since 2014. And one of his best roles at home, favorite role.
Just to be clear, 2014 is when he started.
Yes, when he started.
His career as a head coach.
Nearly 65% against the spread since 2014, all games. One of his best roles at home, favorite role, 22-6 against the spread here. And I know it's 1995 duct tape shoes handicap. I do have some concerns about an Oakland team that just lost an emotional guy, one of their rookies, Jonathan Abram, one of their star young players. He's on IR.
Wasn't he out? He didn't play last week.
No.
So we're saying there's going to be a 2-week effect.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I like Minnesota here, minus the 8.5 to get a bounce back win. And I like what I saw. Hey, a lot of teams down 21-0 early would have waved the white flag. They fought right back and nearly won that game outright last week in Lambeau.
And thus no downgrade.
I would have downgraded them a half.
So that crap about the safety from 2 weeks ago, when you do your normal hits, they all nod. Yep, good point.
Yeah, no one. Well, I haven't done the normal hits yet.
Yeah, but in general.
Yeah, they would. Thank you for calling me out on that.
Did you know it was BS?
Yes.
At least he's being honest there. Now, I was ready to press the button. Brad reminded me about Zimmer. I don't think the Vikings are as good as we think. I mean, I've been acting like they've been like the non-football sexy team. You know, I've been looking to play. Remember, I think you even played them when they went into Foxborough, right? Last year? Remember, they were getting like 3.5. It was some tiny number.
They would have been getting more than 3.
Look it up. Brad, look it up, will you? I mean, maybe it was 4. So I don't remember if you had it or not. Jets, speaking of this, Jets, Patriots. Oh, we went over that. Best bet. Love it. And I got my parlay on that. Dolphins, Cowboys. Now, this is the other end of the quinella here. 21.5. And as we said, I think on the pod, 5 teams favored in the last 30 years prior to this week by more than 21 points. 2 of them this week. Pats, Cowboys. Biggest favorite in the history of the NFL. Or, I'm sorry, the history of the Cowboys. You got the number?
6.5 at home against the Vikings.
Was it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd like to see that line move. I think it opened to 4. But no, I'm wrong. Fez.
Yeah, I like Miami here, and I'm obviously worried about a team that has performed historically bad in weeks 1 and 2, and I have ranked in my ratings as a historically bad team. How bad? Well, 1.5 worse than the worst team that I've had the past 5 years in the Miami Dolphins. But I look at the Cowboys, and to cover a 21.5, you've got to have the motivation, I believe, to want to bury a team. And I don't see the Cowboys having that.
Just to be clear, you don't need the motivation to cover more than 52.5% of the time. You need the motivation, right?
Yes.
You can fluke into some cover.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that seems to be escaping this line is that Dallas is what's one of the big surprises on the offense. Their number 2 wide receiver, Gallup, he's been the number 1 wide receiver. He's been incredibly good, and he's out for this game. He's out for 4 weeks. So you take away one of the wide receiver weapons for Dallas, and now it's going to make it even more difficult for them to cover a 21.5.
How much is he worth?
Half a point.
And did you even know his name 2 weeks ago?
No. Colorado State guy, third rounder.
So do you really think he's worth a half a point?
Yeah, because he's been
He's
just been incredible
for 2 games.
For 2 games.
Here's my question, because I think I got a pick here. I just want to bounce it off you guys. Fez, specifically. I like Brad, but come on.
Yeah.
What's the doubt? Meaning, if you're taking Dallas, check that. If you're taking the Dolphins, do you think Dallas doesn't get their points? Or do you think the Dolphins score? I think the Cowboys get their points. I think the sure bet here is Dallas's team total over. And here's why. I think that the only way Dallas doesn't score is if they're just flat. And I think a team that is this is where we disagree often, Fez. I agree with you. Teams that are used to being on a roll, the rolls don't mean much to them. Dallas feels like this is you ever have a feeling in your career or your life where like you've got a couple good things went your way? It's like I'm feeling like I'm going to a different level. You felt that before, right?
Sure.
Did you lose your motivation then? Or were you motivated by that upward trajectory?
You were motivated. It's when you plateau that oftentimes you get stuck.
Yeah. So my question is, Dallas right now is feeling like they're the 4th favorite, right, to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, number 4 in my power rating as well, yes.
When's the last time Dallas was number 4 in your power ratings?
Oh, my goodness.
Never? I mean,
never. Never.
So this team's on a new level. I think they're going to be the offense is going to be energized. Now, the defense is going to play as well as they play. But now Miami, if you do believe in them, do you think they're going to shut Dallas down, or are they just going to put some points up?
More likely they put some points up.
Yeah, so I either like the over in the game, but I'm more sure of Dallas getting the points. What do you think? Dallas team total?
I'm thinking it'd probably be about it will be 35.
35. So let's think about this. So the total is
47.
All right, and we're going to take away 22, right? Just to round number it. So 25. So we're going to split it up 12, 12. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably 34.5, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a big number, ain't it? Wow. But I guess it has to be at these. Yeah, so I don't love it, but if I had to get at this, I would get at Dallas, though it obviously goes against you. So I guess the question is, why not go over Miami team total? Because Dallas might put up 55.
You know, I like that. Just Miami over the 12, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because if they don't get to 12, I don't like my bet, do I?
Because I think Dallas gets their points.
Yeah, and
I mean, we
I
don't
agree.
know. I mean, what we're saying is we're doing is a 60-40, you know. That's interesting. But that's what's great about the NFL. There's liquidity in a lot of these markets.
Yes.
In fact, you exploit those. Next game, Giants, Bucks. 6.5. You had your say there, right, Brad?
Yep.
Giants, Bucks, 6.5. Bucks at home, 6.5. Oof. Fez.
Yeah, I lean Giants, and it's all about the change at quarterback providing motivation. I actually have this as a downgrade. I have Daniel Jones being 1 point worse than Eli, but I actually think the bounce of the Giants in the locker room and preparing for the game, let's face it, they know they're dead men walking with Eli. They know that they're going to win 4 games. They don't know what it's going to be like with Daniel Jones. So with that uncertainty, the certainty of a horrible season removed, at least for a period of time, I expect a maximum effort from the Giants with the quarterback change.
So lean Giants for you.
Lean to the Giants plus the 6.5.
Yeah, lean Giants for me as well. And to me, it just comes down to, can you really trust Jameis Winston and company laying a touchdown here? So first thing that came to my mind, when in the hell has Tampa Bay been a 6.5 point favorite? And it's only the second time in 7 years Tampa Bay in any game has laid 6 or more points. Yeah, I agree with you, Fez. I think there is at least a 1-game bump with Daniel Jones' first start. I lean Giants here.
And let's face it, Tampa Bay's win against Carolina, hey, it was on Thursday. That's impressive. You're a road team. You go in and you win on a Thursday. And when I watched that game, I really saw a compromised Cam Newton that just could not run the ball at all and was ineffective passing. And I think that's why that Tampa Bay defense looked so good on Thursday night. I'm not believing it that that's the case.
So I stepped out to the restroom. Was there an assessment? I heard you on Daniel Jones, Fez. So, the thought being, and I think it's important to say, Daniel Jones very well could be better at the end of the year. You're saying inexperienced right now, it's a downgrade.
Exactly. So short-term downgrade.
Do you think the Giants get energized?
I think big time. I think it's worth a lot.
So net, though, you think it's a positive?
I think it's a slight positive to change, even though I think the quarterback play is worse. Yes.
Yeah, great point. I had my Eli under 18.5. Boy, on Twitter, I guess people love that. It just felt like, a Wednesday for me. Or
a Wednesday.
It was like one of those, like, you can't imagine. Fez, have you seen, of all the percentage of picks I've had that you couldn't fathom the game losing after, I've been about 50% on those in my last 10 or 12 picks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making many picks on the radio, right or wrong.
Right. And what was amazing about this pick is I never seen a guy sweat out so much week one. RJ's like, Eli, they're going to start him week one, right? In other words, we were confident he was going to get replaced by Jones, and then Jones did so well in the preseason. The only way...
When did I say anything about
The only way you were
this.
not going to win your under 18.5 is if Eli didn't start week one.
Because you're saying not start any game.
Oh,
the
I know
caveat.
what he's saying. I'm speaking Fez.
Oh, go ahead.
Because there's a rule in prop bets where if Eli doesn't start week one, it's no bet.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That's what the books do. They say the player has to play week one for you to have action on all these prop bets.
That's asinine. I didn't even know that. But so I certainly wasn't sweating it. You're saying I should have been sweating it.
You should have been.
Yeah.
Sweating. Yes.
But that makes no sense. I get playing one game. But why would it matter if they're hurt the first week?
Because they want to avoid getting destroyed on a player gets injured during a preseason game and then someone makes a 100% bet on that player going under. And Andrew Luck under.
Oh, so you're saying they're afraid with their limits, like at $300 or $500, that someone's going to beat them on an information, like the book, even the C team won't figure out, oh, wait a minute, there's an injury on Eli Manning. I think we should maybe take the Eli Manning props off. That's what they're fearful of?
They are.
It shows you why Vegas is in the shitters when it comes to sports betting. Because, one, imagine if I had that bet, Eli tweaks his ankle. Or, imagine in this case with my bet that Eli tweaks his ankle and he doesn't play week one, but he plays the rest of the year and he has 14 touchdowns. How mad am I going to be? Rightfully so, right?
Absolutely.
Not to mention their business is handled. They're positive EV on all those bets in theory in aggregate that they're canceling in these cases, right?
Yeah, I think it's a rule that probably costs them more money than
it certainly does.
Right.
In any long term, and it's pissing off everybody.
Yeah.
To what end? Ugh. Cockroaches. So how well did famous Jameis do? Because did you guys discuss Jameis?
We did not.
Starting quarterback of the team favored by 6.5?
Yeah.
Maybe worth a comment.
Yeah, so I watched the whole game, and the national media narrative was, Winston played fantastic. Wasn't the Winston I saw. His stats, his underlying stats were decent, not great. They were good. I would use the word good, but he had a couple balls that he threw that absolutely should have been intercepted, including one.
Enough. What's the handy? What is the... Boy, that sounds like how to me is breaking down every pass. Net, how did he do? Considered expectations.
He met expectations as my number 20 quarterback.
Perfect. And you can give a few details around that, though you have, and more. Week one, how'd he do? Well below average.
Yes.
So
through 3 interceptions to a team that only had 2 interceptions the entire year before.
Exactly. So what we're saying is on the season, he's disappointed.
Yes.
And he barely got signed to his 5th-year option.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. And they're laying 6.5. So that means one thing. And this is kind of one of those commandments. Teams in the NFL are never as horrible results. There are no horrible teams. Think even the Browns when they were bad. They weren't bad. Oh, they were bad, but they weren't like, oh, my God, bad, right? We were batting them pretty much every week.
As were a lot of the wise guys, yes. And those Browns teams were pretty much rated like 9 or 10 points worse than an average team. That's it, despite only winning one game in 2 years.
So in this case, the Giants, what's your power rating say in this game?
Power rating makes it exactly 6.5, right on the number.
That surprises me because it strikes me. This is saying the Bucks are clear. In fact, the Bucks would be a road favorite. 6.5?
Yeah. They'd be
sound right? It does? Where's Tampa Bay in your rankings?
They're minus 2.5 points.
I'm not asking that. Where's the stack?
Number 21.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Who's 22?
Denver.
I would make my biggest bet of the year on Denver on a neutral plus 105 to account for me being one slot down. Who's right after that?
Detroit.
I would make a major bet. You think Tampa's better than Detroit? So you just got a strong. What is it that you like about Tampa? How were they stack ranked?
I don't like Tampa at all. I'm the guy that didn't even upgrade them after they won as a Thursday night underdog.
Well, then then you must have really liked them before because I don't understand. What was their stack ranked win total? You remember?
1 second. They're exactly 6.5.
Okay, so win total wise, the stack rank.
Yeah, right around 26th.
Okay, and they were tied with a couple.
Yeah.
And Fez, you got them 21, which
do.
seems like, Fez is heavy on Tampa, but actually it makes sense.
Yeah, because so many teams have had decimated quarterback injuries, including Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and the Jets. So those teams were.
And again, this is, Darnold's out for a limited time, but as of now,
all these teams who were better than Tampa Bay and probably will be better at the end of the year are worse right now.
All right. Panthers, Cardinals. Panthers, road favorite by 2.5. This might be one of the worst. Let's be quick on this because can anyone answer this question? How healthy is Cam? Fez?
We don't know. He's not practicing all week, and he's game time decision to play. And in fact, there's no line on this game right now.
And how did he look last week?
Looked horrendous.
Yep.
He's looked horrendous now. Carolina's lost, 9 straight? If you go back to last year?
No, they won that one game against the Saints when Bridgewater played week 17.
Okay. Oh, against starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
Seriously, they've lost 9 games, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to find out Cam retires and we find out that he had a horrible injury we didn't know about. I don't know. Right? Degenerative this or that. I'm not even speculating. I'm saying I think we're in the dark.
Yeah, 5 carries so far this year, 0 yards. And the previous 2 years, he had averaged 30 and 40 yards rushing.
Would be 9 straight if you take out that Saints game.
And again, they won, but it was against a backup quarterback, and the team sat a lot of starters too. Speaking of the Saints, Seahawks 4.5 backup quarterback in, but it may not, at least, the coach is saying, not just Bridgewater. Fez.
Yeah, and the real question is how much Taysom Hill are we going to see? And I got to tell you, Taysom Hill is a problem to prepare for. It's a big uncertainty. I'm going to pass this game because of it. What I saw from Taysom Hill during the preseason is that this guy is God in preseason. He is just so difficult to stop because he is willing to run the ball and he can throw effectively. And frankly, has a lot of skills that Bridgewater doesn't bring anymore because Bridgewater, with his health, you're not worried about Bridgewater running anymore. If Taysom Hill plays, or even if you have to prepare for him, that's a big problem. And because of that, I pass.
You know what we should do? Let's show him the sausage. We rarely do this, but I'm starting to think about it. Fez, I want you to do 1 or 2 takes of you going Stephen A., but not a high, or I think Stephen A. has a high IQ, but let's say a cerebral Stephen A., in which you say some variation of, what's this dude's name?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom?
Yeah.
With an M. Some variation of, if there's anything I'm sure of, in Fez's words, that Taysom Hill is the best third-string quarterback in the entire NFL. Because you said that on SOV. Right?
Taysom Hill undoubtedly is the best quarterback in the NFL. If you need to cash a ticket in preseason, RJ, you bet on Taysom Hill, unless you're me and you did that week 4 against Miami. And then you watch Taysom Hill drive his team down the field in position to win and cover your final preseason bet. And then he gets it 1st and goal on the 5. And all of a sudden, the only time Taysom Hill has ever seemingly failed in the red zone was when I bet big on him.
The funny part is at the beginning, he sounded like William Shatner. He was going, if I could know one thing. There's no chance you could do like a natural, just like not a big rant like that, but rather if I know like some proclamation about like something big is coming, like listen up because I'm only going to say this once. Something like that. Hold on. You don't get any closer to the mic when you scream, actually. It's probably when you're back up. Let me get closer. Start screaming in the mic. Is something like I'm only going to say this once. Taysom Hill is the best third-string quarterback in the entire NFL. You can bet that. Something like that.
I'm only going to say this once. Taysom Hill is the greatest third-string quarterback in the history. Yes, the history of the NFL. You can bet on that.
So, Sleep, you'll be able to pull out when I was talking over him there, too. See, we're just getting it all going on, baby.
I recorded that one, too.
Oh. Good stuff, man. All right, Brad, what do you think?
I'm willing to bet you on that, Fez. So let's make a bet here. If Taysom Hill plays, I'll take Seattle, you take New Orleans. Sound good?
You're saying that it's a conditional bet.
Yep.
But he's saying the best third-string quarterback. He's not saying that he's an elite quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Right.
All right. Fair enough.
I know it's hard.
I wanted to get a bet.
Well, I mean, it's easy.
All right, we'll see if you guys want to fade me on this one because you got some strong opinions on Seattle. I like Seattle in this game, and here's what I don't understand. Help me understand with this line. I mean, I get it. There's a chance that Seattle's, even though they're 2-0, they could be average. They could be even below average team. But this is a Seattle team playing at home. We can all agree one of the best home field advantages in the National Football League, especially at this line. You go back to 2010, the start of the Pete Carroll era here. Anytime Seattle isn't laying more than 6 points, they're 28-10 against the spread. As a small favorite, 6 points or less, or a dog. And these two teams, with whether it's Taysom Hill, Teddy Bridgewater, are expected to be almost even. I'm not buying it. Give me the Seahawks minus the points.
I think the market's telling me they agree with me in that Seattle is no good.
Yep.
Or it's a love of Bridgewater. And again, I personally think Bridgewater, and we talked about this on SOV, if you look after his first preseason back after his injury, his yards per attempt especially, he is not looking downfield. We had a big bet on him, Fez, week 17. That Carolina game we were just referencing, horrible.
Never close.
And if you're having a quarterback in waiting, they took that game very seriously. I think Bridgewater, and I think this Taysom Hill, it could be a Fugazi, or it could be Bridgewater's not what we, isn't as good as maybe perception is. Though you think he would have taken that Miami starting job, which they offered him. Or maybe he's so bad off, he didn't even want to get exposed yet. I don't know. It's curious. We got 2 games left. Rams, Browns. Rams on the road, favored by 3. Brad, you like this game.
I do. Give me the Rams minus the 3 for me. And here's an issue that I have with the Cleveland Browns. RJ mentioned this on Straight Outta Vegas. I listen, RJ, intently to what you're saying. Cleveland, penalty issues. Not only the first game with 18, but even last Monday night against the Jets, 9 penalties, 27 penalties, 2 games. Affected them and impacted them 1 game against a good team. It didn't matter against a lousy Jets team. I think it will in a tight game. The undisciplined Browns is going to cost them. And if there's anything with the Rams that they've done really well under Sean McVay, they bring it on the road. Last 2+ seasons on the road, 15-3 straight up. And the average cover, ATS, by 5.5 points per game. I'll take the Rams that have been there, done that in a primetime game over the Browns. LA Rams, I like it.
Well, you hear the music in the background, and here's why. I made a commitment. Dave Essler lives in Florida. He has as many wins, as many net units, as much profit for his followers as anyone at pregame.com, Fez included. This guy, not always the obvious duct tape shoe type stuff that Fez loves, but he wins. So I've made a commitment. He's going to make one best bet in each of the pod, the college pod and the NFL pod. And whenever someone bucks him, I'm backing Dave with the bet. Auto bet. I don't care if I like it or not. Dave Essler. Let's listen to Dave because he happens to have the Cleveland Browns.
Sunday Night Football, going out on a limb here. Browns +3 over the Rams. Now that the hype over the Browns has cooled, maybe it's time to play on Cleveland. If travel's a factor, this is the second time in 2 weeks the Rams have flown to the East Coast. And being a primetime game, I think that magnifies Cleveland's home field advantage. Interesting Goff stat here. Last season at home, 22 TDs, 3 interceptions. On the road, 10 TDs, 9 picks, with a rating over 30 points less. Rams are 2-0, but they beat a breezeless Saints team. And in week 1, Carolina beat Carolina more than the Rams beat Carolina. Goff only threw for 183 yards. Their offense is 19th in yards per play. I think early bettors are pointing to the Browns' short rest here. Cleveland's first game against the Titans, certainly Monday Night Football, but this is a must-win game for Cleveland. Next 2 games at the Ravens, at the 49ers. So again, I think the Browns' preseason hype was overstated. Now maybe the Browns are undervalued. Love the primetime home underdog to cash a ticket.
Brad, I tell you, it's hard to dispute. Maybe a difference of opinion, but it's hard to say he's wrong.
Yeah.
You think he's wrong. Can't prove it.
He wins. That's all he does.
That's me, baby. Fez, what do you think? And give us I know you like the total. Give us an opinion on the side.
Yeah, I'm going to lean to Cleveland, and I think it's all about the Rams have looked good, but wait a minute.
You want to jump in with us?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, do it. Love it.
Let's look at the 2-0 Rams. Well, they beat Cam Newton. Well, Cam, rocky quarterback play, and then they got to go up against Bridgewater and the Saints. So all of a sudden, that 2-0 start, it's pretty quarterback-driven, it appears to me. Maybe the Rams, a tad overrated. I could only look to the Browns.
How much have you upgraded the Rams?
Let's take a look here, RJ. I believe 0.5 point.
And what's your power rating say on this game?
Power ratings make this game, big power rating difference. Rams are only a 0.5 point favorite.
And you don't buck your power ratings.
Rarely. I rarely buck my power ratings.
I think that the Monday night game, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The Rams won. Oh, I'm sorry, check that. Cleveland won. And people, we were joking about Colin. People came away saying they disappointed. Jimmy Vaccaro said that when they flashed 7, maybe flashes, when they put up 7, the wise guys were fighting to bet the 7 -110. Is that what you saw?
Yes.
So the sharpest bettors in the world said, "Give me 7 and give me the Jets." Cleveland won by how many?
20.
And it's a disappointment. Like somehow, this they look good on Monday night isn't built into this number.
And RJ, if you were live wagering this game, and I feel I can speak for the country here, if you were watching this game, you won live wagering because all you were doing was betting on Cleveland. It was clear the entire game that Cleveland was dominating this game.
And it's fascinating. If you look at the Rams right now, the way Cam Newton's played this year, is he even the 32nd best quarterback? Meaning there's backups better than him right now, right?
Yeah. In fact, I got a stat for you. And I can't reference where this is from, but someone kept a stat on passes thrown.
Someone somewhere at some point.
Yes, I will look it up for you. It's a pass that you throw. What percentage of your passes cannot be completed? There's 0% chance the receiver can catch it. Cam Newton is at 32%. So think about this. 32% of his passes, his receivers can't even touch.
I saw it on the herd. Uncatchable passes, he's by far has the highest in the league.
All right, and then what kind of assessment would we make of the Saints backup, Bridgewater?
Well, we think that Bridgewater is overrated. The national media...
I mean, the way that he played... Let's be more specific.
Oh, yeah.
The way he played against the Rams.
Yeah, he was not throwing the ball downfield. He did not look comfortable.
So not a top 32 quarterback.
God, no.
So literally the Rams haven't taken a snap, or I guess one quarter, and Breeze didn't play. Now you could say that's the Rams. I say, okay, maybe. right? So to me, this Rams team, I'm not saying they didn't come in the way they came into the year, but I don't think they've proven anything yet.
Correct.
And correct.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fez, the professor, grading the papers. Brad, you want to buy out?
How much is the bet? It came across my mind.
Well,
what's the bet?
Let's be clear. We don't have any set buyout price.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's
Now
the
that you were going, you
negotiation?
gave it away right there.
What's the negotiation?
I'll take 50%.
No, I'm good.
Fez, what do you take? You offering him any buyout?
No buyout.
Oh, he's so
Whoa.
sure.
Good luck.
We'll talk about it maybe during the
we
rest
got
of the week.
some time.
By the way, guys, last game.
Oh, I do like the under in this game as well.
Oh, go ahead. Give a quick handicap.
Yeah, so if I just look at the underlying stats last year, the Rams, 6.4 yards per play. They're giving up 6. Well, this year, their defense is only giving up 4.9 yards per play. Oh, that could be because their defense is better. Could be just because of bad quarterback play. But their offense is only gaining 5.5 yards. So all the numbers on Rams are depressed this year versus last year. And I think that this total is being more set like a Rams game last year than this year, especially because I don't like what I'm seeing from Baker Mayfield at all in terms of his performance.
You know, you just made a bet on the Browns.
I know, I did. Can't have, there's two sides to every game, but I like the under 49.
So explain to me this Baker Mayfield disdain, because Colin obviously has been leading the way with it. Like you say, I don't like what I've seen so far. Give me the numbers.
I don't have numbers. I have eye test just from watching them.
And how many snaps did you watch? Did you watch the whole Monday night game?
I did.
All right, that's fair. And how much did you watch him against Tennessee?
Think about that. Not very much at all, other than the 3 interceptions he threw in the fourth quarter.
When they were losing.
Yes.
So, by whatever, 20-something. Brad, you got anything?
2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's not great.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess what I'm saying is if you look at his stats last year, they were great. Some people made the case that they weren't. Like somehow the stats didn't matter. Now the stats matter. It seems like people
that's true.
It seems like no matter what, they want Baker to not be good.
Fair enough. And even the stats are confusing.
I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying it just seems weird.
And when you throw a slant to Odell Beckham and he takes it for 80 yards to the house, how is that unsustainable, or are we going to expect that might happen all year long? It's hard to say.
Well, Odell Beckham's one of the top 5 receivers in football, right?
Yes.
So they make plays often.
They do.
Yeah. Let's not bury the lead. I think you got a good drop from Fez. I don't have the stats. I have the eye test. He did say
Market. I think he's getting punch drunk. All right, last thing, guys, before the last game. This is big. And just backing up a second. People think, wait, we're getting all these opinions. The thing about buying Brad and Fez, even for the week, even for their package, you're getting their picks from the beginning, from A to Z. Some of it's early, beating the move. Some of it's normal, let's say Thursday. Some of it, game day. It's based on the line move. So, like, you're partners with them. You're betting every game, if you choose, it's your choice, with them. Here, it's one snapshot in time. We're giving our very best opinion. We even saw where there was a line move as we're talking. It could have changed, So, I promise you, we're holding nothing back here. You can tell. But having it from A to Z, huge difference. When you agree, Fez?
Yeah, and remember, a lot of these prop bets, we're just speculating about what the numbers are going to be on these
props
things.
are one of your strong suits.
Yeah, so on Sunday night and Monday night, it's very rare there's not going to be at least an opinion, if not an official play or 2 or 3 that I'm going to give
on
out.
On average, Sunday night, Monday night combined, how many bets do you have on props?
I would say 1 per game is average.
And your props are winning over the years at a high rate.
Yes.
Okay. Bears, Redskins. Bears on the road with Mitchell Trubisky favored by 4. You got to lean to Chicago, Fez.
Yeah, I'm going to lean to Chicago for a couple of reasons, RJ. One being, let's talk home field advantage. The Redskins have a sneaky bad home field advantage. Remember in RFK when that was a big edge for them? Well, their new stadium's kind of antiseptic. It's not very loud. And for whatever reason, that home field advantage hasn't been there. And I saw the game against the Cowboys. And Washington, that crowd was half Dallas Cowboy fans, at least. And I expect the Bears travel well. Their fans are all over the country. I expect that home field, especially because it's a Monday night game, is not going to be nearly what you would expect for a normal Monday night home dog. Second reason, two major concerns for the Bears. What do the Bears players worry about? Mitch Trubisky, can't trust him, can't trust our kicking game. Well, they just won a game where Mitch Trubisky drove them the length of the field with the game on the line, and Pinheiro kicked a 51-yard game winner. I think that gives all the Bears players a bounce to their step. They're like, we're not cursed with this quarterback we can't trust and a kicker we can't trust. I'll lean Bears.
Whenever I have a road favorite, Fez, and right around, looks somewhat reasonable, -4, I always do the home away flip here. So, and you said, hey, Washington doesn't have a full 3 points of home field advantage. But let's just say, in my example, they do, and the Bears do as well. Would you really want to lay 10 points with this Chicago team if they were sitting at home against Washington? I wouldn't. I would lean with Washington here, plus the 4.
We appreciate the support. Great show. This has been a long one. A lot of passion from these boys. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to RJ Bell's Dream Preview. Catch the